time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Folks, there's a saying out there that says, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Well, if you think we don't have a drug problem in the state of Pennsylvania, and particularly in two counties, Schuylkill County and Luzerne County, believe me, you have your head someplace in the sand or whatever. We have a serious problem. But you know what, folks? We hear it all the time. Well, what are we doing about it? My God, well, you hear these so sad stories of people who OD, young people who are dying and disrupting families. It's just terrible. Today, I'd like to get to real facts. So you are educated on what's happening in two counties, Luzerne and Schuylkill County. And also, I am playing this show for my friends in Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton, and also in the Harrisburg area, Scranton and Kingston. We appreciate you tuning in. My guest today, the district attorney from Schuylkill County, Christine Holman, and the district attorney from Luzerne County, Stefanie Salavantis, and our police chief in the greater Hazleton area, Frank DeAndrea. We'd like to get different perspectives. Christine, thanks for coming on the show. Stefanie, and also Frank, thanks for coming on the show. We have a serious problem. We always talk about this. It's a problem, okay? In Schuylkill County, as a district attorney, what have you instituted? What's going on? What do we have that we have some hope?
Well, let me start with this, Sam. When I took office, I wanted to get to the root of what the actual problem is with regard to heroin, other drugs, methamphetamines, bath salts. Where was it coming from? I took a look at our clerk of court's office. From January 6th of 2014 to the end of July of 2014, we had 1,073 criminal complaints filed. If you divide that by the 7 months, it's roughly 153 complaints a month. Out of those complaints, there were 55 criminal complaints that dealt with heroin, just heroin. I didn't have enough interns or enough manpower to physically go through the files to look at the other drugs, so we focused on the heroin. So I thought, all right, 55 cases of heroin, that's about 8 a month. I started looking at the municipalities in Schuylkill County. We've got 67 municipalities. I started reaching out to the different law enforcement offices asking, how many criminal complaints do you know that you had dealing with heroin? And I got some facts. Schuylkill County does have a drug task force. We've got 2 full-time detectives working this drug task force. We started a program with the 2 of them and extending out to the other police forces, asking for volunteers to do saturation patrols and roundups. And one of the things that we looked at was taking our time 1 block at a time, sending a message out there to the individuals bringing heroin in to these various 67 municipalities, and we came up with block it out. It's not a pretty picture on the front. There's a drug deal going down. It's individuals, and there's a baby carriage, and there's a heroin needle and a spoon. The most important part of this is the Schuylkill County Drug Task Force hotline, 1-800-414-1406. What I've been doing and what our task force is doing, we go out to municipal meetings and we talk about blight, we talk about heroin. We encourage everyone at that meeting to take one of these placards and put it in their business or their home window.
Is it working?
Well, that time will tell.
Oh, you just started this program.
We just started it,
okay.
And what I'm going to have to do is when we move into 2015, I'm going to keep this crime study going. I'm going to be looking at the amount of criminal complaints and the amount of complaints that deal with heroin. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to be putting together a small card that I can hand out to parents and to students in schools, facts about heroin, meth, bath salts, facts meaning how bad these drugs are to do. And of course, we always are crying out for treatment. And that's something that Schuylkill County, and I'm sure with other counties, are looking to the state for some more resources for treatment centers to give people the help that they need.
I think that is critical. Stefanie in Luzerne County.
Well, as she stated already, it isn't a secret. We are having major issues with the increase in drugs coming into our communities. About a year ago, and I believe I discussed it on your show before, we started, since we do not control our drug task force, we started what is called the Advanced Tactical Anti-Crime Unit. It was initiated because of the increase in drugs we were seeing, the arrests, the crime, the criminal organizations that were coming into our communities. So that unit brought in all of these different agencies. You have the FBI, the state police, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Marshals, the Sheriff's Office, our office, the municipal police officers. And we brought them all together, sat down at a table and said, what can we do to help? And how can we use all of our resources to help this issue? Well, we decided on combating it one community at a time. We started in Wilkes-Barre, and we have been doing it as saturating, as was discussed already. Most people know it as saturation patrols. We're saturating these communities with police officers in uniform and undercover to find out where these drugs are coming from, making the arrests, finding the dealers. But we're not going to stop this. It's going, if you arrest one individual, another person's just going to step into their position. We need to start focusing on finding a way to cut the demand in our communities. Demand, if there wasn't the demand, we wouldn't have these people coming from New York, from Philadelphia, from Newark, from all over coming into our communities. We need the education. We need programs in our communities that will help the addicts.
Getting the funding. I mentioned if you think education's expensive, try ignorance, okay? And you pay the price for that. We in our society are paying a very severe price for the drug problem that we have. There's people who are stealing. It's just so many sad stories, and Frank will attest to some of these. But we hear it all the time. My God, what are we going to do? Okay, my God, this is terrible. Particularly when you lose a loved one, okay? And, you know, unfortunately, I have 3 grandchildren, 11, 10, and 9. And I'm very nervous about this. They're good kids, but God knows on the playground what happens, you know, if they're not educated at different ages, you know, and soon as someone gives them for nothing just to get them hooked on things, these are serious problems we have. When you did your saturation, okay, there are a few things. You arrest someone, okay? Then the law says there's limits to what you could do, correct? I mean, if you're arrested for drug selling, because you see them, Frank, they're smiling. I mean, they're so happy that they got it. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. Did they go in and come out of the system? What does legislation have to come in and say, look, we are now, this is a heavy fine you're going to be paying, or you're going to be incarcerated for so much? I mean, do we need stronger laws? Christine, I'll ask you.
Sam, you're right. Well, we have sentencing guidelines that we have to follow, and there's mandatory sentencing for a certain amount of drug uses. I mean, you don't just, you don't get one bite at the apple, but you have to take into consideration someone's prior record score. Are they probationary worthy? What did they do in the past? Can they be rehabilitated, I think is the question. And from what I'm hearing and finding out, a lot of the heroin addicts are crying out for help.
Yes.
They're telling us.
Yes.
They're confessing to the police officers, I just need help. So we're asking, well, what do you need? How can we help you? They need treatment. They need some sort of treatment center that is going to embrace them.
Do you have a treatment? Do we have a training? I know you've been talking about this a number of times, and Stefanie is to rehabilitate these people, which is critical. Okay, do we have any of these treatment things in the counties? From Luzerne County's perspective, we have what's called the treatment court. And based on the charges that are held against someone, they can be admitted into
treatment court. And what that does is it's a process that this individual goes through. They have to stay clean. It's help for them, and it helps them get on the right track. We have graduations left and right, and you listen to these individuals who, like she said, they cried out for help. They entered this program. We are actually doing something for them, helping them get clean, and they see it. They see that there are people out there trying to help. From Luzerne County's perspective, we do have that treatment court.
Folks, I'm talking to District Attorneys Christine Holman and Stefanie Salavantis, and we'll be talking to Police Chief Frank DeAndrea. Now, they could only do so much. The law enforcement can only do so much. What are we doing in our families? What are we doing? Are we having our get-togethers? Are we finding out what our children are doing? Are we paying attention to what they're on the internet or whatever? Or don't we have time to spend with our children anymore? Are we too busy? And we want the policemen to do their job and do our work as parents, and we want the teachers to do their work instead of us doing it. We owe it to our children, folks, to educate them and find out what they're doing. Those family dinners are so important. I don't care if you have a sandwich there. I don't care if you have coffee or tea. What are your children doing? Let them know that you care for them. Let them know what's happening. They'll do their job. You have to do your job. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I'm Sam Lesante. 24/7, you can watch any of our shows, ssptv.com, and my email is sam@ssptv.com. Very serious show today, folks. We're talking about the drug problem we have, a serious problem, very serious. I'm very fortunate to have two district attorneys from Schulkill County and Luzerne County, Christine Holman and Stefanie Salavantis, and Hazleton Police Chief Frank DeAndrea. Frank, when you brought the drug task force in, okay, that was the first time, I think, in the state of Pennsylvania that General Kane was able to bring in. What happened when you had all these people in town?
I think it was a huge wake up for a lot of people, to include the Attorney General's office. The availability of heroin is scary. In less than 6 months, we identified and put out of business 69 different heroin trafficking organizations, which is the different stamps on heroin. But that itself is so eye-opening to say there are that many different distribution facilities. They're only the ones we were able to arrest. So more than anything, and I'm always I'm gracious to anybody who's going to give me help. Certainly the Attorney General, the state police, the district attorney, the county detectives. I will take help from anywhere. But I think that it's become obvious to all of us, we will not arrest our way out of this heroin problem. Years ago, it was hard to find someone who knew someone who did heroin. Now all of a sudden, heroin is not only socially acceptable, there's no fear of the drug anymore, it's become the drug of choice. And so as both of the district attorneys have mentioned, we need to focus on the other side of the problem. We need to figure out, how do we address the desire and the demand for the drug? If we could help dry up the demand, the availability will go away, because you can sell it all you want. If you can't find somebody to buy it, you're out of business. We lose funding. We're not in schools anymore with the DARE program.
Why?
There's no funding. Where's
that funding come from?
It was a state and federal grant, and it dried up as all of the different governors have cut, and they looked to cut places, and one of the things is there is no DARE program anymore. Unfortunately for us, that was one of the police department's exposures to children. You hit, I'm going to say, the nail perfectly on the head. We lost that family element. We lost the talking to our kids and knowing what they're involved in and where you're going and who you're going to be with. And again, heroin is not a drug of bad kids. There are doctors and lawyers and good kids and A students and athletes as well as drug addicts. It is that diverse, and it has no conscience. And so the only way to get people to be off of it is to educate them. And the only way to get people off of it once they're on it is to have treatment facilities. But even with that, I mean, I deal with heroin addicts and recovering addicts, you will recover for the rest of your life. So we can't just have a 6-month program and say, oh, you're healed. It's got to be constant. And so we need to educate everybody on how do we help. We're not trying to help a heroin addict. We're trying to help the community. Because the more people we could keep off of this drug, this is a deadly drug, and you do not need to go to a funeral parlor to die from heroin use. All you need to do is use it, and you are basically dead to your family and society.
Frank, if you want to talk about a catch-22 situation, this is definitely one, okay? You're talking about funding, you're talking about education. So the district attorneys, they're trying to do what they can with the funding they have. I must be stupid, or I have to be dumb. I don't understand what and I'm not picking on legislators, by no means, but darn it, if you need funding for treatments, so I could help Stefanie Salavantis, help Christine Holman, help the police departments, okay? You need funding to treatment. Then you need to educate. You have to tell these kids, because their parents, probably half of them are not even telling their kids and wanting to see it. And I'm not picking on parents, but damn it, that's why you're a parent, okay? Now what happens, you don't have funding. You don't have the things that and then we're going around saying, oh my God, I can't believe this problem. This person just died. It is a deadly thing. So the legislators have to be in tune here, I mean, so we can get the funding. I mean, you guys are crying out help all the time. You're in the city of Hazleton. You've been looking for 10 cops, okay? Yes, there's going to be a price to pay for those cops. But in the same token, what is the price that we're paying not having those cops? As education is expensive, you try ignorance. We don't have the police department, like your saturation in Wilkes-Barre, okay? We don't have the number of cops out there doing the job, and we want to know why this is going on. It's crazy to me. Could you shed any light on this, Christine? Am I losing my mind here or what?
No, you're not losing your mind, Sam. You're exactly right. We have to reach out to our lawmakers and educate them as to the prevalence of this problem. And I'm not saying that they're in the dark by any means, but perhaps they don't know the amount of money that is necessary to treat these individuals and stop the demand. So perhaps we need to lobby. We need to gain some momentum, strengthen numbers, and reach out.
When you did your saturation in Wilkes-Barre, okay, such as what they did in Hazleton with the task force, okay, and for the likes of me, I just can't understand why people can't understand why we need more policemen on the streets, okay. How effective was it when you did the saturation thing in Wilkes-Barre?
It was extremely effective. We saw that people were second-guessing themselves as to whether or not they should even enter that community. And we were hearing that from the criminals themselves. Knowing that we have all of these agencies, the police presence, and they didn't know when we'd be showing up. And that was what was key to it. They had no idea. So every day they were on their toes thinking, will today be the day that we will have police presence all throughout our community?
Okay, so let me ask you this, because Frank and you were involved with the task force, when you had the final day and you showed all those arrests and all the heroin you found, okay, those people that you arrested, are they in jail now, or did some of them go in and come out, or did the system, are they playing?
It's both. Some of them went to jail and will stay in jail because of their sentencing guidelines. Others were in and out. Others never even made it to jail. I mean, it depends on the totality of the circumstances.
Well, what dictates that?
Well, there's sentencing guidelines. There's past criminal histories.
Bail, they can be out on bail.
But again, here's that to me is a finger in the dike type of thing. And I look at what District Attorney Holman has done with the tip line and going block it out. I look at District Attorney Salavantis, who comes up with the ATAC, the ATAC unit. I look at General Kane, who came up with the new way of doing task forces. There's our solution. Our solution is to stop thinking about the problem the way we used to, because that's not working. Exactly. We need to come up with out-of-the-box solutions that people might look at us and say, you're crazy for trying that. we've got to try something. It's not going to work until the community themselves becomes outraged and loses somebody, or something happens, or they wake up one day and they don't recognize their town and they say, we've had enough. And then, and only then, will we be able to get the word to Harrisburg and to Washington, D.C. to say, rethink your priorities, because we've got to fix this problem. We need more treatment courts. We need more education programs. We need more boots on the street, more cops in these municipalities. Come up with a way of funding a task force. Come up with something to allow us to educate and to fix the need for the drug. And then the drug itself will go away.
Folks, I'm talking to District Attorneys Christine Holman, Stefanie Salavantis, and Hazleton Police Chief Frank DeAndrea. Education, funding, treatment. Right? These people, as Stefanie said, Salavantis said, treatment is so important, funding is so important, as Christine Holman said. And where's Frank DeAndrea with his police department? He's asking for more cops, and we're getting all kind of nonsense. All kind of nonsense. Don't worry about the drug problem. You know, we're worried about a couple bucks that we're going to save, and we have all the disasters happening in the city of Hazleton, and we want to know why. Give them what they need. So it's going to cost $60 or $70 or more for our taxes. Put the politics aside. We have children out there who are being abused, heroin being sold. We don't have the cops to take them. Then we want the district attorneys to do what they have. They don't have the funding. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. As you can see, I'm very upset about this problem we have. We have the district attorneys from Schulkill County, Luzerne County, and our police chief in Hazleton, Frank DeAndrea. In Schulkill County, it's called Block It Out, 1-800-414-1406. We need education, we need funding, and we need treatment. Christine, just give me a wrap-up of what you see in Schulkill County and what you hope would happen.
What I'm hoping will happen, Sam, is that people will become more educated about the harmful effects of heroin and how it really affects everyone. Not just looking at arrest these people, throw them in jail, and I'm going to turn a blind eye. That's really not going to solve the problem. So education, treatment, yes, cracking down on the dealers, the ones that are dealing have to be apprehended, and the demand, as has been said here, has to be curbed.
District Attorney Salavantis?
I will say the same things that were just mentioned. I think our biggest problem at this point is the demand, and we need to do more. If it's the legislators, state or federal agencies coming in and saying, what can we do to help the addicts in our community? Because if we can help with the treatment beforehand, these people don't have to end up in jail. They don't have to hit rock bottom and be sitting in jail or appearing in front of us here today. We need to do more for them. We need to do more for our community. And as was stated, we want the community to be aware of what's going on around them. Second guess themselves when the doctor gives them pain medication that they think, do I really need to take this? I'm not in that much pain. That's what leads you down that path. There are so many individuals that have come forward to us and said, it started out with pain medication and now I'm on to heroin. I can't believe I'm a heroin addict. There are decisions you have to make in your life, and you need to really think about what is right and how you can better your family, how you can grow together and actually help your community. The demand is just, it needs to end, and we need to do something more for our community.
So Frank, maybe we should do for the naysayers that think we don't need any more cops, is spend a day with you and see what you have to go through.
Don't spend a day with me. Spend a night with me.
Yeah.
Because the city takes on a different light. But the one thing that I'd like to point out, I look so intelligent sitting next to two wonderfully intelligent individuals who have all of these ideas. I think what the community needs to recognize is there's a difference between committing a crime and being a criminal. And when you're talking about heroin, it has no conscience. And so there are good people that get addicted to this drug, and we need to stop thinking they're all bad people and start being willing to help, because helping them is what's going to help us.
So let me just tell the three of you this, okay? God's been very good to me and with our broadcast here, and 60,000 people watching our news, over 150,000 watch this show, hopefully more in Allentown. We have an opportunity of getting a message across. If there's anything we can do, and if we need lobbying, it's not picking on anybody, it's just bringing awareness. The more we could educate people and get people involved, I think it's going to help everyone, okay? So we need funding, folks. We need education. Frank needs cops. He needs cops, period. So do we pay the $60 or $70 for the tax and don't pay that and suffer the consequences? Families, moms, dads, guardians, pay a little bit more attention to your children. Get together, find out what they're doing, have those family dinners, have those family get-togethers, ask your children what's happening. Don't let them tell you what to do, you tell them what to do. You're not a friend, you're a parent. We have a lot of friends, but our kids, we're parents, we're guardians. We have to take care of them and we have to find out what's going on. Let's not depend on the teachers to do your job. Let's not depend on Frank, DeAndrea, Stefanie, Salavantis, and Christine Holman to do your job. Do your job, they'll do their job. We'll see you next time.